Hello there, TikTok and YouTube. Well, I'm still calling these daily vlogs, but they're not really very daily at this point, are they? This is my 51st vlog, and it's for the 27th of December. It's also going to be covering the previous few days as well, from the 23rd onwards. I will say, I've been doing this thing where I record the weather and temperature. I like to do this because it adds a little bit of context to various different things. So this is for like the 23rd all the way up to the 26th. I like to do it because you can look back when you're rewatching these kinds of videos. You know, same with my bullet journals, I did it there. If you just include the temperature, the weather, maybe a line with like the most salient, most important news story of that day, it gives you context. It helps jog your memory. So if you're going back years into the past, you can look at a journal entry or a vlog or something like that, and you can go, oh, that's what it was like on those days. And it just adds a little bit more essence to the entry. So I've got loads to talk about, and I've got 10 minutes to do it in. So I want to talk about books, I want to talk about role-playing games, and I want to talk about other stuff like Christmassy stuff. And I also want to discuss disabilities and what it's like to be disabled on social media, because that's a big thing for the last week for me. So I want to start this off by talking about books. My reading for 2023 was rather low, really. I barely touched books, to be honest. And I think it's been that way ever since my dad died in October last year. I had to get used to the fact that I had to do stuff without him there, without him being that central focus for the family. He really was the patriarchal figure that everyone kind of orbited around. He was everyone's linchpin, everyone's anchor. And without that, I've had to learn how to do things for myself that I didn't realise I wasn't doing for myself. I've had to learn fiscal responsibility. I've had to learn how to look after my own home. I've had to learn how to do silly things like put up my own bookshelf, which is something that every man should be able to do, is, put up a bookshelf. It's not that difficult. And yet, without someone who was a painter, decorator, a mechanic, a plumber, he did all those kinds of jobs. If you ever needed a piece of furniture built or something put up, you'd ask him. Why wouldn't you? But no, I've got to do it myself. And yeah, that was hard. So my reading has changed a fair bit. Instead of reading books, what I tended to do is read the beginnings of books and then get distracted and get overwhelmed by other things in my life. And that needs to stop. So for 2024, I'm putting my foot down. I'm going to actually read my books, read all the way through my books. I didn't even finish books at the end of this year that I was actively planning to finish. Things like The Lies of Locke Lamora. I was thoroughly enjoying that, and I had to restart it because I read it at a time when I had loads of migraines. I wasn't feeling great. I didn't really finish anything. Right? The closest thing I've had is I finished 1984 recently. That was it. Now, outside of reading, my tabletop RPG has been my focus for the last 6 months or so, probably longer than that. And I ran that game on the 23rd. I ran a game that I'm really enjoying running, actually. It's something different for me. Obviously, my tabletop RPG system, Sovereign Steel, is kind of a replacement for Dungeons and Dragons, and it fits beautifully with the way this new game is being set up, because I wanted to try something different. So we've got a murder mystery set on a luxury yacht in a steampunk world. It's my own setting. It's my own NPCs, my own storyline. But what it means is I've been challenging myself and challenging the group, because a group of D&D players, most of which are in the late 20s, they have various genres that they're used to. They're used to high fantasy, they're used to sci-fi elements, they're used to action. So a game that has as its primary influences and its primary inspiration be Agatha Christie and Jane Austen really threw them. Like, I actively recommended that they read Pride and Prejudice and Murder on the Orient Express, and more power to them, they actually are doing that. So yeah, this is a weird time, and it's nice for me to be trying to use these influences, because these are books that I have a lot of respect for, I really love, but they're very much outside of the norm for a bunch of guys in their late 20s. if you said a bunch of guys in their late 20s are going to play a tabletop RPG where most of them are playing female characters and most of them are playing high society women in ball gowns doing, diplomacy and social interactions using a skill system where the game has zero combat, based on Austen and Agatha Christie, no one will believe that game's taking place. It is. I'm running that game. It's a fascinating experience. It really is. I'm so glad that I managed to get players to agree to this kind of game and to be excited for this kind of game, because I can imagine most D&D style groups would not be up for that kind of thing unless it was a very female-heavy group. So after the 23rd, I had Christmas. At Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I spent with family. I spent Christmas Eve at my sister's place. We exchanged a couple of presents. We had a really nice meal. We just had a Christmas gathering, as you do around Christmas. Christmas Day, it was just me and my mum. My dad was there in spirit. We put a bobble hat on the urn. But other than that, it was just the two of us. We had a nice Christmas dinner. We exchanged presents. It was really pleasant. I now have more video games because I got some PlayStation 5 games for Christmas. I'm going to be going into them and playing those and giving my thoughts. 2023 again. It wasn't just reading that I put on the back burner. It was video games as well. I have played less video games this year than any year since I was able to pick up a controller. I can look at my trophy statistics. I barely touched video games. So I kind of want to get back into what was my primary hobby and play some of the games that have been sitting on my shelf waiting for me to play them, and make a few videos about them, talk about them, just get back into that community, because I missed out. I really did. I went very insular over 2023. The other thing that I've been doing over the last few days, 26th and the 27th, I spent largely in recovery. What I've been doing is I've been watching TikTok. Now, I've been watching a few channels about disability, living with disability, specifically one channel by a young woman called Betty, whose channel I will link in this video so that you can go and check it out. She has spina bifida, and she talks about what it's like to walk with calipers and deal with a disability every day. To give you a bit of context, her disability means that she's paralysed from the knee down, and she has to worry about if she injures her legs or her feet. She can get infections, that kind of thing, and she has no real knowledge of what's happening below the knee because she can't feel it, which means she's got to be very careful. Her legs and her feet will turn in, and she can put pressure on them. She could dislocate or break her ankle, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things she needs to consider. I have a similar situation. Now, with me, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which means that I have a connective tissue disorder. It affects my muscles, it affects my joints, it affects all the soft tissues in my body because I can't create collagen, which is a building block for all the cells in your body. Now, for me, that means that I end up with a lot of mobility issues, but also chronic fatigue and chronic pain. And they have been huge for me this year. They have been the things that have influenced my life the most out of anything else. Now, watching these videos on TikTok, people talking about what it's like to live with disability, I realise I have a perspective I can share as well, and maybe I can raise a little bit of awareness over what it's like to live with EDS. I'm also on the autistic spectrum, and I have ADHD, which is another thing that there's a big community for ADHD awareness and ADHD lifestyle, and yeah, I think that would be something I'd like to share, like to talk about as well. So yeah, the 26th I ended up with a migraine for most of the day. 27th wasn't so bad. I spent time chatting on the phone. I watched some TV. I relaxed, tried to recover from the migraine the previous day and the rather a lot of social interaction I had for the previous 2 days. And yeah, it's been pretty good. So that's my vlog for the Christmas period and the 27th. It's currently the morning of the 28th. I'll make another video later tonight talking about what I do today. But I'm right up against the 10-minute mark, so I'm going to have to call it there. Thanks for listening. Hope that this was entertaining and I didn't bombard you with too much information. But I'll see you next time. Bye.